want to take a look at entrepreneurial teams. These are much more prevalent than most people really realize. We always have a tendency to say, so-and-so was a great entrepreneur, except we don't have the whole picture, because a lot of times you have somebody who's always out there, always talking. They're the CEO. We assume that they're the sole person out there. Yes, she is doing fabulous, or he's doing fabulous, but there's an entire team behind them. And sometimes we don't know who they are. It's a group of experienced people from different areas of business. They join to form a team, and they take the skills and they sit down there and they develop, make, and market a product. We always think of Steve Jobs as the great founder of Apple, except Steve Jobs wasn't even a technology person. He was an entrepreneur. Steve Wozniak was the primary tech guru behind everything. Wozniak never wanted to be in the public limelight. He didn't like it. Okay, Mark McCullough, he was also there in the background. They preferred not to be out front, where Steve Jobs loved having the limelight and everything else. It was his temper, his mercurial personality, everything else. He was spectacular to be out front, and he drove everybody mercilessly to new layers of perfection and fabulous success in the process. When you look at that, I went through and I paid attention to that. I did some research on my own. When you start paying attention to some of the great companies that we have going on right now, Amazon, we talk about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos wouldn't have sat there, made it without his wife, Mackenzie Bezos, when they opened up their garage and all of a sudden started selling books out of their garage. And all of a sudden, 3 months later, they had to buy a warehouse. They stayed together for years and years afterwards and created a team that was broad and diverse in the process. Jobs, Wozniak, Warren Buffett, at the time of this recording, he's 90 years old, and Charlie Munger is 97. They've been partners for a long time. You always hear about Warren Buffett, where the stock is $409,000 a share. Okay, Charlie Munger is the financial genius behind him, but you always have these partners. Mark Zuckerberg, we pay attention to him on Facebook, except he didn't start Facebook. It was him and a whole team in the process. He ended up buying up the team after a lawsuit and everything else by the time it was all done. But look on the team, Zuckerberg, Muskowski, Hughes, and Severin, they were all part of the development of Facebook. Google, we see Brin and Page out there. They're still there in the process, being partners in front of Google, but we really see Brin as being the CEO, and Page is very quiet in the background. Microsoft, Bill Gates is out there, but Microsoft really had a huge helper from a slightly older Paul Allen, who the two of them actually built Microsoft and did fabulous things. Larry Ellison, we always view him as the face of Oracle, and yes, he is, except behind the scenes, Bob Miner and Ed Oates are also there. Zara, the clothing company. Okay, we always look at Ortega, he's the CEO, but his wife, Rosalia, she sat there, was there with him when they created the entire thing. When you go through and start looking on entrepreneur teams, there are a lot of them, and a lot of them that hit the ball out of the baseball park, not with one home run, but with thousands of home runs by the different aspects that they have in the process. We look at a thing called cognitive diversity. Diversity is tossed around a lot. Everybody's worried about race and everything else. I understand that, but part of that aspect is accepting the cultural aspects of the whole thing. We start looking at, I want to have these people into my team over here, not because of an outward appearance, but because of the outward appearance carries that inward brain set and the structure on the inside. Pay attention to the whole person each and every single time. Do not hire yourself in the process. It's easy to sit down and get caught up. That person looks just like me, I'm going to hire them. No, that's not very smart. You don't want to hire people like you. You want to hire people that are different than you. You want to sit down there and grab their brains. Go see how they think. Do they solve problems the same way, or do they solve problems a little bit differently over here? Pay attention to their heuristics, how they solve that problem aspect. What kind of diverse categories to have? Are there different ways to think? Listen to them in the process of how they think, and they think differently. You may want to pay an awful lot of attention, because if they think differently, they're going to bring something different to the table than you do. And all of a sudden now you start combining the ways you think, you can solve a problem much better. Once upon a time, I had a dean that I was working with way back in the beginning of my years in higher education, and him and I didn't like each other. Of course, it was his fault, not mine. I know who I am. I'm perfect in every aspect, maybe one or two problems every once in a while, but I did all kinds of things. I wasn't very nice. I sat down there one time and I baited him. Nowadays we call it trolling. Back then we called it flaming. I got him to flame out an email in front of a group of people, and I chuckled inwardly because I was devious and sneaky. I wasn't very nice. I repent of that kind of, although I didn't like him still. Doesn't matter. I set out and I sent out the perfect memo to the entire campus as a chief business officer. And I had 3 people question parts of it, and I thought the answers are right in the memo. And I thought, okay, maybe you need to pay attention to how you're writing. Maybe you're not a perfect memo writer. So all that's in the back of my head. And then I'm doing a presentation in front of a group. I'm talking about teamwork. And then the guy that I didn't get along with, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting here listening, I'm talking to this group of business leaders in the community, thinking, you really are a hypocrite, Bouguet. And I sat down there and I was telling myself in the back of my head, you need to do something and actually be like a real team player with him. So I went down, the next time I did a memo, I went down the hallway and he sat there and he knocked on his door. Yes, he wasn't too happy to see me. Like I wouldn't be happy to see him either. So I come in, I tell him what I'm doing, and I says, can you take this memo? And I want your input into making this better, trying to answer all the questions. He takes the memo. He's kind of skeptical because of the fact that him and I really haven't seen eye to eye on a lot of things. He says, okay, so he asked me a bunch of questions. In my mind, I'm listening to his questions and I'm saying, but it's right there. But I answered his questions. I was being a good team player. And then he took my 1-page memo, which to me is like the perfect size for a memo. He turned it into a 1.5 pages. He added words that I thought were totally irrelevant. I sent the memo out. I didn't get one inquiry. Because of the fact, even though I said it here, he rephrased it in this cognitive diversity aspect. He answered questions for an entire group of people out there that I was not connecting with. From that point forward, I made a point using the tool of cognitive diversity, of having other people look on my communications, especially the most important ones, and adding language in it to sit there and connect with different people. And you too, this is the lesson. Please take it from me in the aspect that pay attention to people around you, surround yourself with people who think differently than you are, and you'll be a better leader in the process. Barriers to team performance, conflict, lack of trust, miscommunication, relationship issues. Here's a whole series of things about the aspect of professionalism, civility, polish, have manners all the time, etiquette, use social intelligence, soft skills, ethics. I'm not going to sit down and read these to you because you're going to have these things clicking inside your head as you go through. Courtesy and respect. Be punctual. Don't be sitting, even if you think you're fine, they may not think you're fine if you show up exactly on time. A lot of people think on time is 5 minutes early. If you know somebody like that, you know what? Show up 5 minutes early for them. Speak and write clearly. Go through and treat everybody with tolerance and tact in the process. Have an appearance, have an appeal that sits down and is professional on the job and everything that you do. Develop your entrepreneur team with basically dignity and respect for each and every single team member. Take care.